In this video, I'm going to show you the new feature in ChatGPT called Operator. Now, some background. I'm Hector Garcia, I'm a CPA, and I've been obsessed with artificial intelligence, but most importantly, I'm not just obsessed about artificial intelligence, I'm obsessed about how is it going to change our profession, how is it going to change what we do, how are we as accountants going to adapt to it, and how all this automation is going to fundamentally change what is it that we're going to do for a living as accounting professionals, and most importantly, how we're going to charge for services and how we're even going to price our services when we have these bots doing things in nanoseconds or behind the scenes without taking any actual effort. So I think fundamentally our careers and industry is going to change, be completely upended by artificial intelligence, and it's going to be up to us to figure out what creative ways we can adapt artificial intelligence to serve our clients, to continue to add value to our clients. So anyway, that's a quick background. So I'm going to use Operator to kind of show you how I'm envisioning how accountants or really any business owner can start building like these little bots, these little agents that go out and do things in their behalf. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually I'm just going to tell it what I want done. I'll be semi-specific on some and not so specific on others. But I'm actually going to use a voice narration feature to make it easier. Okay, you're going to log into QuickBooks Online. When you log in, it's going to ask you to put a user ID and password. You're going to have to allow me to put that because you can't automate that piece. Then once you completely log in, you're going to log in into my firm. My firm is called Quick Bookkeeping and Accounting LLC. And then inside my firm, I have a specific client called a Simple Company. So in that client's single company, I want you to look at the history of sales and figure out which is the best customer that Simple Company LLC has. And then we're going to create an estimate for that best customer for $1,500 to provide them advisory services. Let's get started. Okay, that's it. So I gave it the instructions. I was very vague. And then, just to give you some background while this, the AI starts doing stuff. So I gave it instructions. Then what it does, it opens up a browser inside of ChatGPT. And my hands are up here on purpose so you can see. And then it starts following the instructions, going through all the steps. Once we complete doing these steps, and this will take a good 10, 15 minutes to kind of walk you through what it does, and I'll do some narration, and kind of explain what's happening. You can actually save the task and create automation. So notice that at this point, it went into QuickBooks Online. It got to the login screen, and then it noticed that it can't go any further because it doesn't know the password. And I'm not going to give it the password either, but I'm saying so it stops there. So what's really nice is sort of a stop and go process where it does what it needs to do, and then it stops, and then it opens up a chat to say, okay, what's sort of the next step? So I'm going to click on Login on Browser. And then what it does is it gives me control over this sort of mini window that I was doing things in. And then from here, then I can go in there and start manipulating the part that I have to do. Okay, so that's a really important piece. So I have to do my part now, which is to log in. So let me just use a text message here. So I don't know in the long term how we're going to solve the issue with logging into secure sites and stuff. Obviously, if I had given it a task that wasn't necessarily about logging into a secure website, then it could have done it in a sort of public place. But in this specific scenario, since I am logging into somewhere, we do have this sort of stop and go where I have to log in. At some point, once these companies create APIs for this, it's going to be a lot easier. Okay, so I put in my credentials so I can fully log in. And then now this has instructions, right? So I'm going to click on Finish Up. I no longer have control. Okay, it actually asks me, what did it do? And this is for it to learn, which steps are manual and which steps are automatic. So I'm going to put I logged in, and then I click on Return Control to Operator. I'm giving control back to the AI so the AI can follow the next steps in the instructions. I'm keeping my hands up so you see that I'm not controlling the computer. So now I need to find my firm name. Okay, and I gave it the firm name, and now I can't find it. So it's probably going to try to figure out, how to get the closest to what I told it. I said that my name firm was called Quick bookkeeping and accounting, and then it understood QuickBooks keeping. So obviously that's a challenge on itself. So it's at some point, it's going to probably scroll up and down and try to see if within the list it can find what I asked it to find. So notice that that's what it's doing. It just keeps trying. It tries to go through the list. It's trying to figure out, okay, is it on a different list? Is it on the inactive list? So look, it's thinking, it's doing stuff. Now, I want you to look at this left-hand side that says scrolling through active company list. This is actually kind of walking you step by step, the reasoning that it's taking to try to figure out exactly how to get there, right? So the firm name in this case is sort of below the fold, and you have to scroll within. There to get to something, and then it got to the point that it couldn't find it, and then obviously it's because it understood wrong. So I'm actually going to go back here and tell it it's called Quick Bookkeeping and Accounting. Okay, so I corrected myself, and of course we're sort of going through testing, right? And you're kind of watching the testing, and you're going, wait, AI is not doing it right. Well, you got to think through this, right? Right now we are figuring out how the AI grabs instructions and does things on the computer automatically. Once we figure it out, then we fix our prompt and we create a prompt that's very precise with very precise instructions, and then it's going to know exactly what to do and not have all this stop and go. I'm showing you all the things that it's doing and it's trying. So for example, this sample file that I'm going to do this on is called Simple Company. It's actually putting a simple company, right? Notice that it actually used an A there. Obviously, and it's not going to work, right? It's not going to find it. So it's just going to keep trying, right? It's actually literally clicking through everything and trying to figure out, okay, well, do I need to remove a filter? Do I need to search? Do I need to scroll? Do I need to find the closest thing to it? I mean, and again, I like the fact that it's not perfect, because in the real world, as we build these bots, these are the type of stuff that we're gonna run into. And I actually gave by instructions. I said it was called Simple Company. It's actually called Simple Start Company. But let's let it do its thing. I'm actually just letting it run and trying to figure out. Look, it just searched for the word simple, trying to see, well, maybe if I just look for simple, do I find something else? And then it did find something similar there. So let's see if it actually just goes to it, or it asks me if it's the right one. Okay, so it literally decided to just go to that one. Okay, now it clicked somewhere where you edit the company information, right? So then it realized, okay, that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to log into it. I'm trying to go in it. So it's still thinking. Okay, so let me just go in here and put, sorry, it's called Simple Start Company. Log into it. Find the button that helps you log into it so we can start working inside of it. Okay, so I just changed the instructions. And again, long term, we are going to hone down those instructions. We're going to figure out what combination of instructions do we give it so it does get it right from the beginning and it doesn't fart around so much trying to figure things out. The other thing that's really valuable is that even though this is kind of slow, it's a slow process. Once you nail the task, once it literally really truly figures out what is it that it's supposed to do, or you teach it, okay, or you go through all these trials and errors, you save it and you clean up the instructions, and then you schedule it for it to do this overnight, right? So like maybe every night you tell it, go do this task or go do that task. So right now it's still trying to figure out how to log in. So now it's trying the drop-down menu on the top that says go to QuickBooks to see if maybe it gets a little bit better results with this. Let's see, so it typed Simple Start Company, and notice my instructions were bad. I said Simple Start Company. It's actually called Simple Start Sample. So I'll probably click on that, and it did, right? So it clicked on that saying, you know what, maybe that's what he meant. He meant the closest thing to that, right? So again, it's all going to stem from the prompt and the instructions. I'm not purposefully giving it wrong instructions. It's just in the real world, I forgot the name of the sample company. I set something vague, and this is how everything fundamentally changes, right? Where people give vague instructions to a computer, and then the computer is figuring out what to do. So now it went into sales, and it's trying to figure out, okay, is there any information here in sales that can determine, who the best client is or whatever. So it clicked on all sales, and it's probably just going to go through it and see, okay, could I get the information from here? So look, look what it's doing. It's sorted by amount, and then essentially by seeing who the customer is. So it's probably going to guess that this customer, Chris Smith, is the best customer because it's the one that you've invoiced the most ever, right? So it's literally going to now invoice, and it's doing this on its own. It's all figuring things out. It's going into doing an estimate. It's pulling the customer in there. It's scrolling down and finding where is it that I put this information. So I don't know, I forgot what kind of service I told it that it was, but it's actually going through my item list and trying to figure out which one is the better one. So I told it is advisory or something, and it chose financial coaching, thinking that that's the best possible option. And then so it's making all these decisions in our behalf, which is pretty awesome. So I went in there. It didn't change the description, it looks like. It changed the dollar amount, and I think at some point in time, it's probably going to ask me if I should be saving it or sending it to the customer. Let's see what it comes up with. It's still kind of thinking. And if you put your attention over here, you see the logic. This is all the things that is thinking about. So I did stop at this point, and this is where it asked me a question. It says, I prepared the estimate. Should I proceed in saving it? And then I'm going to say, yeah, we are going to save this and send it to the email on file. But also, I want you to make this a recurring transaction every month. Okay, again, I'm giving it some more instructions. So, and I may have not given it the right order, right? So I told it to save it and make it a recurring transaction. So at this point, it's just going to save. And then it's going to try to figure out, where do I do recurring? So I clicked on more actions. Couldn't find it there, right? Scrolling up and down, it's reading. It's trying to figure out, where in the world do I, how in the world do I make this a recurring transaction? So it goes into, it's now clicked on manage. And I assume it went into scheduling. Pretty interesting. Let's see if it figures out how to make a recurring transaction. I actually don't remember if you can even do a recurring transaction for an estimate in QuickBooks Online, which I may have given it an exercise that's impossible. But anyway, let's see what it keeps doing. So far it just saved it. It hasn't figured out how to do the recurring yet. Let me preview here on the left hand side, see what it's trying to do. So it's still trying to figure out where in the world, or how can I make this a recurring transaction. So let's see what it's doing. Okay, again, it's thinking, it's saving, it's watching the behavior. Again, it doesn't have in its database the way QuickBooks is or supposed to be, right? So it's playing with the software the same way a human would. Look, it clicked on recurring payments, right? Which actually has nothing to do with a recurring estimate. But again, it's the only word that had the word recurring in it. So I tried that, right? So it's going into this tab and doing that. And one of the things, as we kind of watch it do this, that I've been thinking about deeply, as a software developer, I kind of want to see if I design the type of software that AI would understand how to use. Why? Because if AI can't understand it, how I expect a human being to understand it. Or maybe that's a wrong approach. Maybe human beings and computers process things different. But if QuickBooks Online was designed thinking about bots, right, or thinking about people automating things with bots, they would probably design the software differently. And again, I don't think we should design software for computers. We should always design software for humans. But the fact that the AI is sort of struggling to figure out how to do this, and again, I might have given it a task that's not possible, like creating a recurring estimate might be something you can't do, and that could be my fault. Okay, but notice that it's trying, it's clicking on things, it's clicking on more actions. It's trying to figure out how to complete this task for me. And because it's a computer, it doesn't have feelings or patience or anything like that. I'll just keep trying. I'll keep trying and keep trying until it gets to a point where it just like literally gives up, right? Like it's clicking on things. It's clicking on create invoice to see what happens, to see if that does anything. Okay, and now I got to the invoice screen. So I wonder if it's going to try to create a recurring invoice now, or if it's going to back out Okay, so in this case, it saved the invoice. Interesting. To see if maybe it figures out how to create a recurring invoice. Again, but that's not the task that I gave it, but it keeps trying. It keeps trying, right? It's going through and trying to figure out. At some point, they'll probably just throw the towel and go, you know what? I can't figure out how to make a recurring estimate. And again, that's probably because I gave it a task that's not possible. Now we'll wait until this kind of finishes doing its thing, or maybe we'll interrupt it and then give it maybe a task that is possible. But it's maybe kind of fun to watch it suffer a little bit. Look, I'm paying $200 a month for this thing, so I'm gonna make this thing work. Okay, so look at this. So I found the invoice and then found the recurring template, and it's creating a recurring invoice. Is it perfect? No, it obviously made an error, but it found something recurring. So it did something recurring, it looks like. So we're gonna let it continue to do its thing. Like it's like it's getting closer, right? So now it's going through the date picker and starting it by tomorrow. Again, here's the question, right? So I figured out how to make a recurring invoice for advisory services that can be sent starting January 24th. Should I proceed saving this template? I said, yeah, sure. Sure. And add some notes that say monthly services, and expand on what a typical advisory service for an accountant is in the description. This is the more typical ChatGPT stuff, right? Where you just give it written instructions and it figures out how to type something or transform your instructions into a written something. So this will be more of that portion, but you watch it work, which is pretty interesting, and you watch it sort of behave. So it's actually going through and figuring out where do I add that description. Obviously, it's going through again. I like sometimes to look at what it's doing, right? So where is it going? Where is it reading and going to figure out how to enter that? So let's give it a little bit of chance. It's gonna find its the product. Okay, so I picked business valuation. I'm not sure that's the best one, but interestingly enough, I picked that one, and then I assume it's gonna delete the description. So it's doing that now, and it put in monthly financial services, financial analysis, budget, tax planning, strategic planning. So that it figured that out on its own, and then it's gonna change the price to $1,500, and then it's gonna add a customer. It's probably gonna ask me who the customer is, or maybe even remember who the customer was. Okay, so I did remember it's Chris Smith. So I went out and did it for the same customer. Okay, okay, just say yes, send it, or yes, save it. Okay, and again, this might be. I want you to kind of, like I'm typing, right? I want you to kind of picture a world. I would say not too long from now, like I said, like maybe like a year from now, or maybe like even less, where we install this thing into our browser and we're not doing anything with our hands. We're literally just saying, do this, do this, do that. And it doesn't matter what level of vague instructions we give it, it figures things out. Like, so it's still sort of like figuring out whether it's done or not, even though it just finished. Is figuring out whether it needs to be continuing to do other things. So maybe I can stop it. Let me just take control here for a second. I'm gonna click on finish up, and I'm gonna have it do different things. I'm actually gonna go into not here. Let's go. Click on finish up and exit the chat, and then I'm gonna give it some new instructions. Okay, so I'm gonna say, I want you to pull up a P&L balance sheet and trial balance for last year and email it to hector@garciacpa.com, and put in the description, put here are your reports for the year. Okay, so again, I just used the voice recognition to type the instructions in there, but now we're gonna watch it work. Again, my hands are up here. Hopefully you can see my hands. So we're gonna watch it work. So it's clicking on back, right? Because it assumes that in the invoice screen you can do that. Then it knows it's a P&L and balance sheet, so it knows to go to reports. It's literally going into reports, and hopefully it knows that P&L means profit and loss. I'm sure it'll figure that out. And so it did. It clicked on the P&L. And then it's going to, the date right now says last month. So I'm sure it'll change the date now to last year. So doing this on its own, changing the date to last year. And okay, now I told it to email it. So I don't know if it knows that there's an email button or if it tries to export a PDF. So in this point, it's trying to, you see the instructions right here, the thinking is trying to do a PDF, right? So it's trying to figure out where is my PDF button. It's trying to figure out where is my PDF button. So it's going to click somewhere. There it is. It found it. So it's going to go PDF. And then there's an email button there. I wonder if it's going to try to save it and transfer me the PDF, or if it's going to try to click on email. Let's see what happens. Let's see what it does. I'm anxious to see how it thinks, quote unquote. So it's actually proceeding through saving the PDF. Interesting. So I save the PDF, and the PDF, it's somewhere in the computer, the virtual computer that it's using. So I'm not sure how it's going to send the email. Let's see. It looks like it's going to do the balance sheet now. So I know it saved the P&L somewhere in the computer, the virtual computer that it's using. So I'm anxious to see what happens afterwards. So there's the balance sheet. It's going to, I guess, I assume the same thing. Try to create the PDF and save it in its own browser, in its own memory. Let's see what it does with the next step. Notice that I'm not editing any. I'm doing this on purpose. I'm letting you wait, letting it sink in. I'm not editing any of this stuff, so you can actually see how it actually works, right? Like I don't want to interrupt it or cut the video in any way to make it seem that it does something more than what it's supposed to. Okay, it's going step by step. Okay, at some point, all this stuff will happen behind the scenes, and you're not gonna sit there and watch it. Okay, you schedule this stuff. Whether calling agents, right? You schedule this stuff to sort of work on its own. Now, the third one, I think, was a trial balance. Let's see if it, or maybe I didn't. Did I not mention trial balance? Maybe I messed up. Yeah, I said try balance, so maybe it didn't understand. But it already finished, and now it's trying to figure out for the email option. Of course, there's no way to send an email with 2 attachments inside QuickBooks Online. So now it's obviously going to go nuts trying to figure out, how to attach those documents somehow into some email module inside QuickBooks Online, which is not available. So it's struggling, and again, struggling because it doesn't know the software. And at the same time, that's how a first-time user of QuickBooks would do also. They would just click things randomly until they find it, right? Because it doesn't know exactly where to go, right? Like it downloaded the stuff, and then it says, look, it got to the point that says, I downloaded it. Would you like me to send this via email? So I'm gonna say yes. Let's see if it figures out how to do that. I don't think it will. I think it's still struggling to figure out, where to start an email inside QuickBooks Online, right? So obviously it's gonna start like, or look, it's doing something else. Oh, it's going into Gmail. That's it. So now it's going into Gmail, right? Assuming that I have a Gmail account, and it's going to ask me, hey, log into your Gmail, and I'll figure out how to email this. That's fun, by the way. That's really fun. Let me say something. Let me say, no, forget about Gmail. Inside QuickBooks Online, there is a button that helps you, or that allows you to email directly each report. So don't download the report. Click on the little button and email it from there. And in the notes of the email, say, here are your last year reports. Okay, so I give it a different set of instructions, and hopefully it'll just close out the Gmail tab or navigate back to the QuickBooks Online tab. Okay, so again, it's taking my vague instructions, looking at the screen, using what it knows and understands, right, as an AI, to figure out which way to go. Now I gave it some explicit instructions, and we're gonna have to deal with that, right? And of course, if QuickBooks changes the way the buttons are, or where stuff is located, the second time we run this, it might not know. But now it knows to go in here and then click on the email report section. So now it's gonna type up. I assume it's gonna type up the email there, and because I said here are your annual reports, it's probably gonna change the body as well. or even the subject. Let's see if it changes the subject. Let me look at the text here. Okay, this is an interesting one too. If it finds any potential risk, like for example, maybe detected that I'm sending some sensitive financial information, it could stop you too, right? It's pretty interesting. So I'm gonna say, yeah, this is safe. Let's just keep going. We're comfortable with that, right? And look, it's gonna change the subject as I suspected. So I put, okay, so it added the word for last year, beautiful. Now it's gonna remove the body and put the instruction, here are your last year reports, perfect. And then, yeah, I would say, yes, and don't ask me anymore, just do it all, okay? So again, this is, I literally got this a couple hours ago. This is beta. OpenAI just released this. I'm sure a lot of us are going to play with this and give them feedback. They're going to learn from this, right? First, they kind of come up with a thing, and then people figure out how to use the thing, and then they give feedback on whether or not the thing is useful or not. My job, as a leader in the accounting industry, is to play with these things and get weird with it and test it and get to the point where things are broken or don't work, and discover what's broken with it. Because by doing that, I could always be one step ahead, right? I could always think 3 steps ahead. What is the next software company thinking about? What is my competition going to do? So by being intimately aware of what AI does and what doesn't do, it helps me control the narrative and the talking points, right? Like for our clients to go out there and come to me in the very near future to say, Hector, you shouldn't charge me $1,000 anymore. You can have the bots do everything for you automatically, right? You can have ChatGPT and OpenAI do it for you automatically, and then I could say, well, you know what? I actually have a video of the bot doing it. Watch, how painful it is. Watch the fact that it doesn't do it correctly. Watch how much it makes mistakes. Watch, so by creating the content on how to use the AI inadvertently, I control the narrative where my customers are going to try to tell me that all this work should be free or nearly free because robots do this automatically. So important lesson there. Now, I want to tell you about what else is in here. So let's say we're done with this, and there's a little share button here. It's really cool. You click on share, and then you create a shareable video. So you'll be able to review the video before publishing, checking for sensitive information, etc., etc. So I click on create shareable video, and it's going to go through sort of a rendering process. Okay, it takes about 30 minutes or so. I'm actually going to stop the recording at some point and then go back and show you the video, just so you can kind of see what's the outcome of the work. But I'll go back here for a second, and there's another button here that says Save Task. So when I click on Save Task, this is where you create the template, right? And then this goes in there and saves all the instructions to the point that it's just what it needed to know. So like these are the instructions: log into QuickBooks Online, navigate to Quick Bookkeeping and Accounting, access the company, simple start company. So it cleans up the instructions and it turns it learns what are the right instructions. So identify the best customer in the sales history, create a 1500 advisory service, configure it as a recurring invoice to send monthly starting January 24th, and add a description specifying monthly services, add detailed typical advisory services for an accountant, then email profit and loss for the previous year directly through QuickBooks Online to Hector at to GarciaCPA.com. Include notes saying, here's your last year's report. Literally, all that whole thing now turns into something that it can understand. I save this. Now this becomes a saved task or a template. So let's say, for example, I log out and I come back a week later. I have all my templates here, so I can click on this and it loads the prompt again, and it kind of just recalls that task. You click on send, and it does that. And so you have all these little templates here that you can use. Now they have some built-in automations like make a reservation, book travel, this and that, order food. I don't care about that stuff. I care about like how is this stuff is going to affect accounting. So that's really what I care about. So I'm going to pause the video real quick and then resume once that little video that I rendered is ready. I'm going to go back to my recent chat here, and I'll open up the history of the chat that I was just creating. And then once the video is ready to share, you're gonna click here on the share button. There will be a button there that says ready to share and publish. And then once you click on publish, essentially somebody will be able to watch the video walkthrough. They won't hear the audio because the audio wasn't being recorded, but they can watch that video walkthrough of all the steps that you took. So if you also need to have somebody else kind of look at that process and kind of look at what it was doing, you notice that there's little signs there that say we're waiting, we clicked, we scrolled. You see those little icons. Let's see if we can see it somewhere here where it actually shows what it's doing. Let's see, I'm not taking. You see that you kind of see right here. It says, see where it says wait. You're actually seeing where it's adding little commands to, as it also tries to manipulate the website, sort of like a cursor, right? Doing things. So again, this stuff is just really, really interesting where it's heading to. Like I can't even imagine what the next step looks like, the better step looks like. Can I right now immediately automate tasks where I'll be completely hands off and I have to worry that I'll do it correctly? I don't think so. But this is the very first version. And this is $200 a month. That seems expensive. But if you're able to give this thing 10, 20, 30 tasks a day that kind of look like this, go in here and reconcile the bank, go in here and categorize these transactions, go in here and make these adjustments, go in here and delete these transactions. If you're able to hone down a set of automated instructions and you could do it every day behind the scenes without you staring at it or having to log in, that's going to be way worth the $200 a month. I mean, I venture to say that AI at some point will be a couple $1,000s a month. I don't even think $200 is expensive. It feels expensive because it's kind of gimmicky. It doesn't really do much. But you start seeing the writing on the wall, all the things that it can do. And then when this stuff works on your computer, not just this sort of computer within a computer virtual thing that you're watching, imagine this working on your computer and collaborating with you in real time. So that's going to be super, super interesting. And then when they enable voice commands and voice responses, so you're interacting with it and it's manipulating your computer all at the same time, all hell's going to break loose at that point. So anyway, if you're an accounting professional and this is the year, you got to understand operators, agents, automations, because this is the future. This is the present. This is, most importantly, our customers are watching YouTube videos. They're watching the pros doing this stuff, and their perspective of what accountants are doing, should be doing, and can do with their hands, with their minds, and with AI is completely going to change our profession. That's why I'm thinking very, very hard about this. That's why I created my organization called Reframe, which is all about rebranding the profession so we are saved from what's coming. So if you want to learn more about that, go to reframe.com. We have a whole event in Miami in November, and we're going to talk about AI, and then we're going to talk about pricing our services in the age post AI. It's going to be one of the coolest events you'll ever go to. So check it out, reframeaccounting.com. And also, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you in the next one.